All right, we're back. We just finished example 1 in section 1.6. Now here's example 2, and yet again, I am not reading this to you. So you are going to read this entire page, which is, a Wikipedia article, to be honest. But you can find this information anywhere. And we'll meet back here to discuss all the answers. So pause me. All right, let's start with the first two questions. What were the experimental units? They were the impoverished Africa. Oh, and by the way, isn't this just the most awful thing ever? And terrible. And apparently, there's also recent findings of a similar type thing in Guatemala. But in Guatemala, they intentionally injected people or tried to with STDs. So sexually transmitted infections, STIs. Okay, so this was 600 impoverished African American sharecroppers from Alabama. So that's the experimental units, the poor African American farmers in Macon County, Alabama. Okay, there were 600 of them altogether. Now there is no control group in this. Why? Well, a control group is when the group is the same as the treatment group, but are given a different treatment. Okay, that's what it is for an experiment. I mean, you sort of have a control in that. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, there's 399 who had previously contracted syphilis and 201 without the disease. You're thinking, oh, those 201 without the disease, they're the control. But a control implies that you're looking for a difference between the two, but they weren't really looking for the difference between the two. They just wanted to see what would happen. It's not like they were actually treating them, all right? I'm laughing, but I'm laughing because it's so appalling. All right, so let me write that up. Hold on. So it's a bit strange. I maybe should have asked these in the reverse order, looking at the next question. But basically, there's no control group because there's no treatment group, right? When you're not giving a treatment, then how could there be control? Yes, there are some people that didn't have syphilis going into the study, but it's not like the results were compared between the two groups. It's not like they said, okay, let's give the group that doesn't have syphilis no treatment, and we'll give the group that does have syphilis treatment and see if our treatment was effective, which would have been a terrible design anyway. But I mean, suffice to say that when you're not doing anything to either group but faking that you're treating them for 30 years, then what difference did it make, right? None. Okay, so a control group implies that you're testing treatments on two different groups that are the same, or you get random people that have syphilis and random people that don't have syphilis into both groups and give some of them treatment and some of them don't. That would be control, right? So control is reflective of the treatment. It's not reflective of the group going into it, right? It's just so badly designed on so many different levels. I really don't know where to begin. But there can be no control if there's no real treatment. And there was no real treatment because they never really treated anyone. For example, even after penicillin was proven, sorry, I spelled that wrong, proven effective at treating syphilis. I spelled that one wrong. They never gave it to the sharecroppers. Okay, so if they're not giving them treatment, then right, what's the difference? Right? And if you don't have treatment, how can you have control? The answer is you can't. These two things go together. If you have no treatment, you have no control. If you have no control, you can't treat. Right? So, all right. Well, actually, that's not true. You can treat without control. So, for example, some diseases like syphilis, for example, are so bad that you have to treat everybody no matter what. At least if you want to do an ethical one, which this one wasn't. All right, who was blind in the study? Let me type that up. All right. So all the experimental units were blind because they didn't, first of all, they weren't told what they had. They were told that they had bad blood, whatever that means. But then they, not only were they not given effective information about what they had, then they weren't being told that they were told that they were treated by the doctors, but they weren't. The doctors were just watching them just to see what would happen. And watch the syphilis progress, which if you know anything about syphilis, you know that that's an awful way to die. Your brain basically turns to mush and you go insane, right? Blind, yeah, they were blind, but not in a good way, right? There was no effective treatment given, and there was no control group. Awful study.